Good morning, everyone. I'm Whitney Diver McAvoy, President and CEO of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us for our recycling and composting webinar. We are joined today by two friends of this topic, Amanda Griffiths, who is the Napa County Environmental Resource Specialist, and Andy Buck with the Upper Valley Waste Disposal and Recycling Company, and he is their community and business outreach manager. So thank you both so much for joining us. We hope the information that you guys learned today will help you not only in your business, but also at home. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Andy and Amanda, who are going to take us through the presentation, and we will have time for questions at the end as well. And we will send out this recording to everybody who registered for this webinar and also be available on our YouTube channel. So Andy and Amanda, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Whitney, and I appreciate all you guys coming out today to talk about trash, recycling, and composting. It's very important. I know it's sometimes the last thing we think about, but you know, with all these new state laws, it's definitely a good idea to be tuning in and kind of learning about what your business or what even you have to do at your home now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'll let Amanda take it away. There we go.
Okay. Oh, my screen settings are weird. Okay, here we go. So I'm Amanda with Napa County Public Works. I'm also staff on the Upper Valley Waste Management Agency. So that means I kind of help with compliance with businesses and residents with various state laws in the Upper Valley area. So the one we're talking about today is SB 1383. So generally what this SB 1383 is a climate change bill. So what it's doing in kind of my purview is getting all organics out of the landfill. Methane from landfills is the third largest kind of climate change gas that we have in California. So what this law wants to do is get all organics out of the landfill, get them into a composting process, and kind of like close the loop on these different products that we're creating. SB 1383 is unique because it requires a lot of collaboration that we've kind of never seen before. So myself at the government are working pretty closely with Andy and his team at Upper Valley Disposal and Recycling to implement this law, make sure all of our businesses and residents have a way to divert their organic materials from the landfill, divert cardboard and is kind of included in this, get that into recycling. So it's kind of requiring jurisdictions, haulers, community members to really come together and work together in new ways and really kind of move forward with implementing this bill. I can pass it over to Andy for the next one.
Yeah, so thank you, Amanda. Basically, so these state laws are there's a lot of new material to cover, and we don't expect you guys just have to do this on your own, right? Again, that's why Amanda and I are here. At least part of why our jobs exist is to help you guys comply with these state laws. So you're not alone. We're here as your friends to help you with this. So, basically one of the major things that we've added is we've expanded on our compost program. So as of July 1st, 2021, we expanded our compost to not only take green waste, you still might know it as the green waste program or green waste cart, but now it's really our compost program, okay? So now you can put food sold paper products such as coffee filters, paper towels, tissues, napkins, all that kind of material, even most paper plates into the green cart. That's considered food sold paper. Same with pizza boxes and your normal tea bags that you'll see, the ones that are not made of some sort of synthetic plastic. You can put food in there as well. Obviously, we're really talking about food waste. We prefer not like full fruits and all that kind of stuff, only because we want it to be eaten. But if it's gone bad, you can put that in the compost as well. So that's everything from meat, dairy products, all of that. The one thing we say is we don't want any liquids going in there, right? And then when it comes to yard waste, you can still put that in there, right? But SB 1383 is really, in all honesty, about, like Amanda was saying, trying to get this material out of the landfill and also putting it back into our soil. So I'll expand on this more in a little bit here. but we make an OMRI certified compost, which is a pretty high standard of organic compost, right? This material then goes to all the vineyards and other businesses, mostly in Napa County, that then go ahead and use this for, growing crops, growing their grapes for, harvest. We have a lot of wineries right now reaching out to us about getting some compost for their vineyards. So really, this is contributing to keeping the nutrients inside of Napa County, which is what we're trying to do. We want our soil to stay healthy so we can keep on thriving with the winery business and other farmland.
Okay. So one thing that we have kind of Andy and I, the trash hauler and I kind of collaborate on is what we call like a business assistance program. I kind of vary in how I title it. So you may hear like site visits, waste assessments. So what we're able to do is offer assistance to any business that needs it. So any Yountville Chamber members, anybody on this call, maybe we've been to your site before, or if you need some help, we can go there. So what we do is we schedule a time to be on site there. Usually myself and Andy or one or the other, and we kind of walk through the interior of the building. We'll look at the outside as well, and look maybe into the trash and recycling bins, see what might be in the wrong place that we could kind of help you divert to recycling our compost. Myself at the Waste Management Agency, we're able to help with providing free interior bins and wall signs to kind of help you sort your different divertible materials. We're able to do trainings for staff in both English and Spanish. And then myself being a county employee, if there's another language you need, I'm sure we have a way that we could help you with any other languages you may need training assistance on. And we're also available ongoing help with via email or phone. Businesses I've worked with in the past, they'll just shoot me a quick email and say, I'm looking to buy this product. Can it go in the compost? Can it go in the recycling? And we're always kind of happy to help with answering those questions, kind of making sure you're buying products that can be diverted is kind of a good first step to take, so you don't end up with things that are going to have to end up in the landfill. I'll pass it back over to Andy.
Yeah, great. And, most of the internal stuff Amanda can help you out with, because like she said, she has that funding for the internal containers. But, if I'm the one, your primary contact for whatever reason, like I'm just the one who's mostly working with you, I'll always loop Amanda back in on this stuff. We collaborate quite a bit. And then something that I specifically can do on my side, since I work at the company, is I can actually help you what we call right size your services. So what I mean by that is we can actually help you guys if, let's say, you have like a huge dumpster for garbage, you have like 1 can for recycling, 1 can for compost. Well, with the amount of material that can go into the recycling compost now, it's likely that you could expand on the recycling compost programs, but decrease your garbage, right? Which usually actually helps you save money, right? So not only are we going to help you with environmental, obviously we want to compost and recycle as much as possible for the environment. That's obviously reason number one, but really there's a financial incentive as well. And so that's something I love to help my businesses with, more than just trying to help you guys with the environmental part.
Okay, this just kind of shows you some of the various types of interior bins that are available. So the ones that I'll provide will have a sticker attached to them that's applicable for what Upper Valley Disposal is able to accept in recycling and compost. They'll be on, the side of the bin that faces out. I try to make sure that it'll be visible for employees walking up to that bin. They'll know what goes in it. We also can provide wall signs. So I just kind of showed an example of what the ones that I have look like. You are able to buy these kinds of interior containers. They sell them at a lot of different retailers. Home Depot, Uline, Zorro kind of carries a lot of these products. The funding that I receive for these, part of it is funding that we get from the state to buy recycling bins. Most of the compost bins and signs comes from 8% of the revenue from Upper Valley Disposal and Recycling comes back to us at the Waste Management Agency to run these programs, to provide things back to the community, and to kind of allow for me to have staff time to kind of help us keep compliant with these state laws. I encourage businesses to schedule a site visit with us. You can take advantage of these free interior containers. For example, those 23-gallon Slim Jims kind of on the bottom left there. They're usually about $50 per piece. So, I'd encourage you to kind of help with your cost to kind of take advantage of what we're able to offer to support our community. And do the next slide. Okay, so this is just kind of showing where we're at right now in Yountville with SB 1383 businesses. So this is with SB 1383 and businesses, any business, actually all businesses, residents really in the state of California need to comply, but this is looking where we're at right now. So, we have, I would venture to guess this is probably pretty average throughout the state. However, we're ready to help if you don't have compost yet at your business, or maybe if you don't have a card at your house yet, feel free. We'll have our contact info at the end, but please reach out to Andy or I. We can work with you, make sure you're getting all of your kind of divertible materials into the right place. And I will say that something that is new for this law is the state is requiring us jurisdictions to have an enforcement program. So as of 2024, it's possible it could kind of fall into like a code compliance type of process. I don't foresee that we'll ever get there, but it'd be great if you're able to get into compliance now, and then you don't have to worry about any kind of enforcement actions potentially happening starting in 2024. Next slide, Andy.
Do you mind if I add something in real quick?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So one thing I want to say is this compliance is not kind of who has compost and who has recycling. We also have to achieve a certain diversion percentage. It's part of the compliance piece, and that's hard to determine. But going back to that right sizing thing, we're determining basically at a certain percentage, if you're, 75% or 66% garbage still, 90% of the time, that means you're not diverting all the material you need to. So that's how we've determined this compliance. So just because you have a compost cart or a recycling cart doesn't mean you're in that compliance section. So if you're a little unsure, or if you have a lot of garbage and just a little bit of recycling or compost, feel free to reach out and we can kind of tell you where you stand and we can try and help you get to that point.
Okay, this is another new part of SB 1383. So it is food recovery. So the state law is requiring that 20% of edible food that's currently being landfilled or composted is recovered for human consumption. CalRecycle is still going to come out with how that's going to be measured. I still am not aware of how they're going to measure that. So food recovery does not mean like if you're at, I don't know, Bouchon's restaurant, it doesn't mean as a server you pull their plate and scrape half a cheeseburger and feed it to somebody. It means like if there's a grocery store that has too much turkey lunch meat or something, and instead of that going bad, that goes to a food recovery organization. Or if you have an event space and an event cancels and you have a lot of fresh produce, meats that you're not going to be able to use, it should be diverted for human consumption. So there's two different tiers that the state has set up of mandated donors. Tier 1 is mostly large grocery stores like Safeway, some big like kind of bakery production things, like I think Walmart Bakery is one in our area that we have quite a few that need to comply. And a lot of our tier 1 mandated donors are already complying. And I do not believe we have any in the Yountville area. And tier 2 is more prepared food. So that would be, it's large events, large venues, hotels of a certain size, health facilities. So I think it's going to be part of the Veterans Home in Yountville that's going to need to comply. Restaurants with more than 250 seats. I think we're probably not going to have anything that large in Yountville, but we still have a little bit more research to do on that to kind of finalize that list that we have. The other portion of this is that the state requires us as counties to lead what's called a food recovery capacity study. So we have to determine how much edible food is going to landfills or compost, or estimate that. Estimate our capacity at our food recovery services and organizations. Our main ones here are the food bank and a food recovery service called Feeding It Forward. And then identify if we're going to need new or expanded capacity to handle all of the food that will be coming from these mandated donors. And we did a contract with a nonprofit called Abound Food Care to lead this study for us. They're a food recovery service that's well established in Southern California. And they determined that we do need to support capacity expansion here, kind of as countywide Napa County. So all of the jurisdictions here, we're going to be working together to figure out how we're going to do that. Nothing has been finalized yet, but that's kind of ongoing, how we're going to do it, the best way to do next steps. So if you're interested in kind of being involved in that conversation or wanting to know more, you can reach out to me about that.
So, I brought up the compost before, and I just kind of want to cover it real quickly again. So as you can see in that right-hand photo, we do have certain events where we even just will load a truck right away. We don't usually do that. We don't really prefer when we have commercial trucks coming through to put it right into a pickup truck, but we do have the option for you guys to come with a trailer, and we can get you guys some of this compost I was just talking about. Again, I mentioned the vineyards and the farms, but one thing is that even for residents, this is great. I mean, again, like people who have home gardens, people who just do some landscaping, this compost is from our area, right? This is coming from the grapes that we're collecting right now from harvest, the yard waste that is produced in this area, right? So, and then obviously now the food, right? So this is a really great way to keep carbon in the soil, which at the end of the day is something that throughout the state, we're realizing we're losing a lot of the nutrients, especially the carbon that's in our soil. This will keep it, keep the moisture in, which will help also when it comes to climate change effects of fires and everything. So we're really trying to push that if you're trying to use some sort of compost or some sort of soil amendment, it might be worth, if not us, looking into more local sources. Because if we're going to be composting more material, which again is great, we're also going to have a lot more finished compost on the back end, right? And we need people to use that. And so we want to work together with residents and businesses in the area to try and address that. So now switching gears a little bit, we've been talking about the organic side. Another thing we can really help you with is the recycling. In fact, in some cases for some businesses, this is the bigger thing to address still. And we totally get it. These rules have changed a lot in the last 20 years. So especially some of you longstanding business owners and businesses, it really does get confusing, and we get that. But again, that's why we're here, right? So I won't get into too much to the specifics about recycling, but we do kind of break it into 5 groups, right? Mixed paper and cardboard, unwaxed paper, unlined paper. And I say that, but then we have one exception, that's cartons and aseptic packaging. So that's the only waxed or plastic lined item we will take. It's because we have some funding specifically to be able to recycle those. But like coffee cups and other plastic lined items, unfortunately, the paper in there is not as fibrous. And so we don't have someone who can recycle that material. So that must go into the garbage still. So that's the first 2 groups. Then we have rigid plastics, which that's a big topic. That alone can take sometimes 15 to 20 minutes to go through everything. But again, we'd be more than happy to educate your business on what we mean and what kind of plastics we accept. At the end of the day, we really don't take flimsy plastics, right? And so that even if it says it's recyclable, even if it has the triangle on it, right? Then we take metal items like metal cans, like aluminum, tin, as well as other ferrous metals. And then lastly, glass bottles and jars, right? We don't take mirror glass, we don't take window glass, and we don't take cups or wine glasses as well. So it's just those glass bottles and jars. So as we are now trying to push out, you may have even heard this term over the last few years. It's becoming more common, but we don't want any more wish cycling, right? Reason being is we have guys who are sorting through this material 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at times. And it's a pretty intense job. They're the backbone of recycling. We want to make it as easy as possible on them, right? The cleaner the recycling is, the more material that gets recycled, right? So as you can see in that bottom left photo, we still unfortunately receive bags of just straight up garbage or even food waste going into the recycling. And guess what? That material can then contaminate the paper. And so then it can't be recycled, right? So it's really important to try and keep the recycling clean and just putting the right material in there. But again, it can be tough to know. So make sure you give me or Amanda a call if you guys need a training or something. When we cover compost, we always cover recycling as well. And then lastly, we've updated our website actually twice in the last year and a half. This new website design we have is probably the easiest to navigate, easiest to find various resources. I very much like it. If you go to the resources tab and go down to newsletters and downloads, or there's a couple other drop-down options there as well, you can find many resources that can supplement with, for instance, like Amanda signs as well. We have some of our own that are also great, but You can use either one, whatever works best for your business, as well as just some other helpful resources that kind of break down, maybe some of the commercial opportunities that are for you guys, like certain programs that maybe you're not aware of, right? And then we have just some other flyers that can be really helpful to review. So I recommend going to our website, taking a look at what's available in the commercial tab and the resources tabs. I think that's usually a good place to start when looking for information.
All right, I'll close this out with a little bit of information on hazardous waste. So we, the Waste Management Agency, part of that funding that I mentioned that we use to buy interior bins, we host hazardous waste events for our community Up Valley. So we do them twice a year, spring at Upper Valley's facility off Whitehall Lane. Fall is usually in Calistoga at the fairgrounds. So what we usually do is a Friday, Saturday event. Friday, we host an option for businesses, and Saturday is our main residential event. So I know this one's a little bit far from Yountville, but Friday, November 4th will be our business hazardous waste event. So that's my phone number there. So you would call me to schedule that. What we'll do is I'll put you in touch with our hazardous waste contractor. They'll collect a list that you have, and then you're charged based on the type of waste and the amount that you have. You can go to the next slide, Andy. And the costs for that are based on a contract that we hold. So we negotiate a contract. It's usually every 3 to 5 years, depending on how it's set up. And we negotiate costs. So the cost that you'll pay for that event will be something that we kind of negotiated on behalf of our businesses and residents. There is another option if you're not able to use that event in Calistoga, or you have something at a different time. There is a permanent site that's just between kind of between American Canyon and Napa, near the transfer station, if you're familiar with that area. Businesses can use that any Friday of the month with an appointment in advance. So you do have to call them to schedule an appointment. And it's for businesses that generate less than 27 gallons or 220 pounds of hazardous waste per month. I think most of our businesses in Yountville probably fall into that. Maybe some larger wineries or maybe some other businesses that I don't know the exact type of, might not fall into being able to use those facilities. Like I said, you pay a fee based on what you've got. And you do have to have a California or a federal EPA ID number, which our hazardous waste contractor can help walk you through how to do that. I think you just go online, request it, and you get it usually within a day. And the other portion that I thought I would mention too is we have our environmental health department. It's called the CUPA, Certified Unified Program Agency, I think is what that stands for. And they oversee businesses that generate hazardous waste, proper storage, staff education. So there's kind of a lot of different groups that come in on business hazardous waste. And last thing I'll mention on businesses is batteries. Batteries, I would think, is probably what a lot of our businesses on the call today have. It's about $1 per pound to dispose of those at the Up Valley events or at the permanent facility. So, if you get rid of them about every 6 months, I think it's kind of a pretty reasonable cost for that. And go to the next one. And then the last thing I'll mention is also the residential portion of our next event. So another part of the contract that we have with Upper Valley Disposal is they're providing e-waste events and shredding events for our community every year. So we took the opportunity to combine this into a 3-in-1 event. We did this for the first time last year, and it worked really well. I think the community found it really helpful. So there you can drop off hazardous waste, any kind of electronic waste that you have, and also any document shredding that you need to do. No appointments required. We did appointments briefly during COVID just to make sure we didn't have too many people there at one time. There's kind of a list there of the various materials that you'll be able to bring in. Off the top of my head, the only things that you can't bring would be controlled substances for medications. Otherwise, any other kind of old Tylenol, vitamins, those kinds of things you could bring. And e-waste, Upper Valley's not able to accept anything with Freon, like refrigerators or freezers, but you could bring computers, old TVs, stereo equipment, different little kind of like electronic items. We can go to the next one. And then, so similar to the businesses, residents were also able to use the facility that's in American Canyon. That one's open every Friday and Saturday for residents. Anyone in Napa County is able to use that one. And it has kind of the same trip limit that we do for our disposal events. And this is due to state law. So you can't transport more than 15 gallons or 125 pounds per trip. For the facility in South County and ours as well, you can go as many times as you need to dispose of everything. The only thing they won't take at the facility in South County versus our event is electronic waste. But if you do go to the facility in American Canyon, right across the driveway, there's a free drop off for electronic waste, and you can drop off your hazardous waste all in one trip. And this is just our contact info that we've got here. You can contact myself at any time. We've got Andy's on there as well. If you have questions on things we talked about, need help with your business, any sort of waste related thing, we're going to be able to help you guys out on.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda and Andy. That was a great presentation and incredibly informative. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. I see George had typed in a question. Can wax cardboard like milk cartons go into compost? And it sounds like you guys already answered that. It needs to go into the recycling. Is that correct?
So yes, it partially, again, I hate how there's always exceptions, but that's just part of this industry. Yes, so cartons, like milk cartons and aseptic packaging, all good, but really just those cartons and aseptic packaging. And the reason being is because the paper inside is very fibrous, very valuable. It's never been recycled before. And so basically what they pulp that material, the plastic, as far as I understand, still gets thrown in the garbage when they pulp it, but the paper is recycled inside. Now, wax cardboard doesn't really fall into that, right? Same with like, you know, a Dryers or Breyers ice cream container, that doesn't fall into it either, unfortunately. So it's really milk cartons. And what in aseptic packaging, what we mean is like, you know, sometimes you get a soup carton that is very like plastic line, very thick. That actually, it's the same thing. The paper in there is very valuable. So those can go in there as well. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like those rectangular aseptic packaging soup containers that you'd pour it in. So yeah, that's about that. That's really all we take. And that, again, like what you said, that goes in the recycling, does not go in the compost.
Great, awesome. And I had a question. As I live in Napa, and as a resident, do I need to call for my green bin to be picked up, or do I just put it out?
Yeah, you would just put that out. Same with Upper Valley Disposal and Recycling. It's part of our usual weekly pickup. So for instance, there might be some residents that still don't have a green card, but they want to participate and they think it might be some sort of special program. No, it comes right with your garbage. And I believe Napa Recycling is the same way. I could be wrong on that. But for us, it's bundled, right? So you're paying for it, even if you don't have it right now, even if you're not using it right now. Because it's all bundled together underneath the trash fee, right? So you get a free, or I should say included 96-gallon compost cart with your residential service.
Okay, great, awesome. And now when they come to pick up the trash, to me, it looks like they just all throw it into the same big truck. How does that work? Is it going into different departments within the truck, or is it all going into one spot?
Yeah, so a lot of trucks for residential communities are what we call a split body truck. Now it's only split down the middle in 2 compartments. So technically you really shouldn't see all 3 going in there, but 2 is very, very normal. You'll usually have a 3rd driver coming up to service one of the carts, right? It's very common to have trash and recycling in the same truck, or green waste and recycling, something along those lines. I've even seen some garbage and green waste as well. So I say green waste, sorry, I mean compost. Yeah, so at the end of the day, very normal to see 2 carts dumped in the same truck. If you really like, if you were to get behind the truck or in front of it, you would see it's being dumped into 2 separate sections.
Got it. Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Andy or Amanda? You can type them into the chat or unmute yourself. Either way works.
I thought I'd mention while we wait, Whitney, to your point about the trucks, something I like to remind, our community members is the truck doesn't necessarily have to say compost on it to pick up compost. So sometimes it might just be completely unmarked, or the side of the truck might be promoting compost, but it might be picking up trash. So it doesn't necessarily indicate what it's picking up, what it's promoting on the side.
Great, awesome. And Mary has asked, are there different size green bins? I'll let you.
So unfortunately, as of right now, no. Now, we have heard this from a lot of people. I don't need a 96-gallon cart. And we hear you. At the end of the day, sometimes space is just the biggest constraint from participating in these programs, and we know that. And so typically we've only had the one size of the cart. We're looking into other options to get others. I mean, we have different size garbage carts, right? So we want to work with you guys. We want to get these other solutions for you. I don't know if that's going to come for recycling, and a big part of that of why is because generally speaking, if you're recycling, right, that's actually often your most full container, unless you're doing some yard work or things like that. So that I don't see that happening with recycling, although I think most people are used to that at this point. For compost, we are looking into it. I don't know what the result will be, but if we do have other sizes, you will see it all over our Facebook page. We'll be putting it out probably in newsletters, all that kind of stuff, because that'll be a big change as well. So stay tuned. Could be soon, could be in a while, but I do think we're at least looking into it from what I've been told by management.
Okay, great. Awesome. And then I had another question. The free bins that you talked about that are available for a business, they were different sizes, the 36, gallon or whatever. Are those available for residents as well? I know the countertop compostable one might have been available for residents. Could you tell us a little bit about that one too?
Sure, yes. So residents can get one of those little countertop buckets that, if you're Up Valley, you probably got one when Upper Valley did their rollout. If you live in Napa, if you didn't get one, I believe you can just call and request one. Generally, I don't provide kind of those like larger containers to residents. I probably wouldn't say never, but usually it's better because businesses were kind of working with them as a whole, kind of doing like a kind of larger improvement. I think one-off we probably could give you maybe like a little 3-gallon bin or kind of a little containers here and there for residents. I think would be okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't see anyone else raising their hand or unmuting themselves or typing into the chat. So Andy and Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today for the recycling and compost webinar. It was incredibly informative and engaging, and appreciate all the information that you shared with us today. And like I said, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, and we'll also send it out to all the attendees who registered for this event. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you all have a great day.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys coming out and listening to this. And again, I can't say it enough. We're here. Reach out anytime.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks, guys.
both.
Thanks.
Thank you.